Alrighty guys, so for today's video, we're going to be talking about this infamous K-9 bite that happened in Circleville, Ohio. I'm sure that most of you by now have seen this video. A lot of people are asking me for my take. I'm going to do my best to give you my take and keep it concise. I'm going to warn you, I started recording this a little bit ago and I got up to about 45 minutes and just stopped myself. So buckle up, this one might get interesting. Alright guys, as I mentioned before, we're going to be going over this K-9 incident that happened in Circleville, Ohio. And before I get started, I just want to kind of give my overall impression of the incident. This is the K-9 handler right here that released his dog on the truck driver that was giving up. He is a moron. He is an idiot. I have very strong words that I would like to use for him, but unfortunately my video would get removed from YouTube if I use those words. I want to make sure that I make that point clear before we go any further on the video. Now, this incident, what the hell happened on this incident? I've got the video right here. We're going to go through, the first 4 minutes of the video. That's really all that you need to watch. I'm going to give you my thoughts and feelings on it. But while I do it, kind of as we go along, I think that one of the things that I like to do that people maybe enjoy, maybe don't enjoy, I don't know, you can let me know, is that even if I don't think the officer did the right thing, I like to try to show what the officer was thinking when he made that decision. There wasn't a lot of thought going in his head, but I also want to show the ways that this should have appropriately been handled. So I'm going to give you like 3 versions of every story kind of as we go along. So the first part of it, this was a traffic stop by Ohio Highway Patrol troopers on a semi-truck for driving while missing a mud flap, which apparently is a big deal if you're a state trooper. Thou shalt not drive without all of your mud flaps. So this truck driver, he drove down the road a little ways and then he stopped. And well, like they initiated a traffic stop and he continued to drive. Then he stops. They started to do a felony traffic stop. That's why they had their guns out. They're starting to order him, giving him commands. He ends up rolling the window down, looking at him, and then he decided that he was just going to drive along again. And then eventually they had to use spike strips to get his vehicle stopped. Now, where did it stop and where is Circleville, Ohio? I've got the map pulled up right here. Just for reference, here is Columbus, Ohio. Here is Cincinnati, and here is Circleville. Circleville is a very small town. I don't know how many people live here, but like 5,000 people maybe. It is most well known for its pumpkin show, which I didn't pull up any pictures from the Circleville pumpkin show, but that is what they're known for. People from Ohio go down to Circleville in the fall, in October and November, whenever the Circleville pumpkin show is, and we eat things that contain pumpkin and we look at pumpkins, and that's really all that we do. But that's where Circleville is. That's what we're looking at. They have a police department that, when I pulled up their webpage and they actually list all their officers, I believe they have 25 officers total. That's including the chief, the deputy chief, and 1 detective and 1 school resource officer. So their patrol subdivision is roughly 20 people from what I just gathered just by looking at it. That might not even be completely accurate. It's probably down closer to 16 or 17 because they have some support positions. So it's a very small police department. That's the moral of the story there. So OSP initiates a traffic stop. I had this muted while it was going, but I'm going to rewind for a second and unmute it. So they have a traffic stop initiated. I was looking for a very specific part. And they end up having to use spike strips to stop this truck. So the point that I want to make right here is a lot of these incidents where it goes bad and maybe a police officer makes a mistake. I also want to point out that it's not just the police officer that makes a mistake in this. In a lot of these cases, in this particular case, you also have a dumbass truck driver who first he ignored commands to pull over. Then he pulled over, looked out the window, saw troopers pointing guns at him, decided he was just going to drive away again. They then spiked his truck and he drove for several miles on flat tires before he finally stopped. So he's a dumbass. If he had not done what he did leading up to this, nothing bad would have happened to him. He would have gotten a ticket for missing a mud flap on his truck. Instead, he decided to go and do this stuff that escalated the situation into a situation. I know you use bad choice of words, but he escalated this to a situation where a stupid police officer was incapable of making the right choices, made the wrong choice. If this guy had done the right thing in the beginning, he wouldn't have been left, what's the word I'm looking for, where this dumbass was in control of his health and well-being. Does that make any sense to you? Like, if you're the type of person that believes that all police officers are stupid, undertrained, they're ego-driven, they're looking to beat people up, they just want to hurt black people. If you're one of the people that believes that, then I would say when you encounter police officers, you should immediately pull off the side of the road. You should stop with your hands out the window, have your license, registration, insurance in your hand ready to go. You should be extremely polite. If there was somebody that I was afraid was out to get me, that was going to try to hurt me if I did the wrong thing, that's how I would treat them. The flip side of that, as a police officer, I was literally in this situation today. I'm a little red because I had to stand out in the sun for like 2 hours. We had a suspect. He was under arrest for domestic violence. He was in cuffs. He was in a car, but his legs were sticking out of the car. It was very hot today. We could have ripped him out of the car, slammed him on the ground, hobbled him, tied him to a cot, sat in the back of the wagon, and rode down to the jail with him. But we were trying to avoid that. We were trying to avoid having a tremendous use of force with this guy. So we were extremely courteous with him. We did things like get him a drink of water, go make sure that his wedding ring was secured, go get his cell phone, go get numbers out of his cell phone. We did all of these things, not because we were afraid of him, but because we didn't want that situation to escalate. He was the one that was being a dumbass, and we were being incredibly nice. If you're one of those people that think police officers are stupid and that they're going to hurt you and do things to you that you don't want, you should be incredibly nice to those police officers. Do the right thing, not put them in a position where they have an excuse to harm you. That's all I'm going to say there. So I rewound it just a little bit. I got the sound up. Now we're going to watch the actual scene.
We're road in Ross County.
I need an update for 1020 again.
Oh, so this is a little bit different because this has the K-9 already on scene. So I went back too far. Or, okay, this is the one that I wanted. I want you to now pay attention to the audio and listen when Circleville PD K-9 pulls up on scene. And I guess the part here that I should explain is what they have done is they have initiated a felony stop. You see all of these cruisers in the background, and you see the semi up here. They all stopped and they all got out of their cars and they're all standing kind of in a line. They're not going past this threshold that is like where their gun barrels are pointed. They're all standing back and they're ordering this guy out of the truck and they're going to order him to have his hands up. They're going to try to order him back. This is a felony stop. Come on, Triple, you're walking too slow. Here we go.
Tell them to stop there if they got them wrong. Circleville PD have a dog.
Yeah. So here's Circleville PD. He's like, Circleville PD, I have the dog. He pulls up before his vehicle's even stopped. He's got the door open and he hops out.
That's a dog! Come to me! You don't want bit!
So this is the part where things are still kind of going all right. You know, you've got all the troopers back here standing on line. They're doing the right thing. This one guy right here is the one that's giving instructions. That is exactly what you want when you're doing a felony stop. You want one person giving loud verbal commands. You don't want everybody yelling and screaming, because then the guy up there with his hands up, he's having a hard time focusing on what's going on. He doesn't understand what's going on. He's having a hard time complying with your demands. If you got one person saying, put your hands up, turn around, face away from me, walk backwards to the sound of my voice. These are very clear things, and that's what you want in this situation. It was all going well. Then the K-9 officer pulls up, and the guy that's giving the command sees the K-9. He's like, you know what? I have another negotiation tactic. He goes, you better come to me or else you're going to get bit. You don't want to get bit. There's a K-9 here. The K-9 handler, he's not really deployed in the right position, but this is still a technique that I've seen used successfully by handlers. Is they get out of their car, they get their dog out of the car, they've got the dog sitting, and they can give the dog a command to bark. The dog acts incredibly angry, and it's barking and it's snarling. It's making this guy believe, if you do the wrong thing, I'm going to eat you alive. You can use that as a tool. Say, listen, come to me. You don't have to worry about that dog. If you don't do the right thing, you're going to have to worry about the dog. So let's go. Come to me. It all starts to fall apart from there. And I don't know if you're going to be able to hear it, but right after I hit play, this guy is saying, come to me or else you're going to get bit. And then this guy says, get down on the ground or else I'm going to release the dog. I think that might be the appropriate time to talk about this. Some of the, I don't know if I pointed this out yet. This is the dumbass K-9 handler. Some of the headlines that I saw about this incident kind of bother me a little bit, and I want to make sure that I clear those up. The first one is like the one here on police activity, and I saw the same title on a news article as well. It says, Ohio officer lets K-9 maul suspect despite trooper's order not to release the dog. Now, here is something about police work that I don't think a lot of people understand, is that when you have a situation, like you have a pursuit or foot pursuit or vehicle pursuit or anything like that, you're asking for support and a K-9 handler shows up, he's in charge of that dog. He's in charge of his K-9. You are not. When a K-9 handler shows up on your call, you don't start telling the K-9 handler how to do his job. You haven't had his training. You haven't been with his dog. That's not what you do. That's his specialty. So the thought that a trooper can order a police officer not to release his dog is kind of a stupid thing. That shouldn't be in the title. That's something that I don't like. On the flip side of that, just these are the rules of the road. If you're a police officer, you don't show up on someone else's run and just start fucking shit up the moment you get there. And that's exactly what this K-9 handler did. There should be an understanding of when the dog is going to be released and when it's not going to be released. In this situation, it seems like the handler was the least educated and the least prepared to make the proper decision at that time, which is not okay. I've been on runs with K-9s thousands of times in my career. I've had people bail from cars. I've been involved in searches. You know, people run out of houses, jump out of second story back window of a house, take off running. They're over 2 fences before you're even on them. We get a perimeter set up. We start calling for K-9. Hey, we think the guy's laying down in bushes somewhere or he's hiding under a porch. Let's get a dog out here. Every time that I've been in one of those situations where a dog shows up, the handler will show up and get out of his car and come talk to us first. He might even do a very quick area search before he releases his dog. One of the reasons that well-trained handlers and intelligent handlers, one of the reasons that they do that is because there is a push from these national anti-police movements to make a canine bite considered, in my agency, it's a level 8 or deadly force. They say a dog is capable of killing somebody. If they grab them by the throat, they will kill that person, or they can potentially kill that person. Therefore, a dog is a deadly force weapon. And they think that K-9 should only be deployed in deadly force scenarios. And that's, I don't know. I think that's a stupid way to go. But because of that, our handlers are kind of taught to work cautiously because they don't want their dogs to have unnecessary bites, particularly an unnecessary bite that causes a serious injury to somebody that could have been prevented by simply using our own senses rather than having to use a K-9, if that makes any sense. So the K-9 handlers that I work with, they show up on the run, they talk to you about what's going on, they ask where the suspect was, they do a quick search, and then they will make the determination whether or not they're going to get their dog out of the car. They don't just show up and get the dog out of the car, because then the dog is all excited. Odds are he's going to bite somebody, and if he doesn't find a bad guy, he's going to bite a police officer. We don't want that. Excited canines, excuse me, are not fun to be around. So there's like the two sides of that, right? A trooper is not going to order a police officer what to do with his dog, but also a canine handler is supposed to show up and evaluate the situation before he gets his dog out of the car. Sorry, I'm having to edit out some coughing fits. But this is a situation where this was a high stress, high pressure situation. The troopers were involved in a pursuit with a vehicle that they had to use spike strips on. They were calling for help. The Circleville PD was like, oh, they're coming into our jurisdiction. We get to go help this. So the canine officer is like, if this guy gets out of the truck and takes off running, I'm going to send my dog after him. You know, he's developing this plan and these contingencies as he's driving up. He drives up to scene. He gets out of his vehicle and he sees the guy out here. And he's like, this is my moment. This is my time to shine. This is my time. This is where I get to do what I want to do. Release my dog, because small town canine handlers probably don't get that many opportunities to let their dog do what their dog is trained to do. And I believe that he showed up on this scene and his mind was already made up that he was going to release the dog in this situation. So as I mentioned before, this guy right here in the dark green, maybe it's dark gray, I don't know, is giving loud, clear verbal commands to this guy to keep his hands up and walk towards him or else he's going to get bit. The canine handler then says, get on the ground or else you're going to get bit. And within, I think it was 15, 20 seconds, releases the dog on him.
On the ground, you're gonna get bit. Come to me, man.
Do not let them, don't release the dog. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Don't. Do not.
Oh, that's so bad. So the guy even went down to his knees, and then the dumbass handler told the dog to turn around and come get him. There's everything wrong with this. The first thing that I want to talk about is the body camera that we're watching. You can hear that trooper saying, do not release the dog with his hands up. Don't release the dog. Don't release the dog. And then later on in the video, which I'm not going to play that part, he's talking to his buddies. He's like, could you not hear me telling him not to release the dog? And they're like, yep, you were loud and clear to me. Well, you were loud and clear to you and the people standing next to you. You weren't loud and clear to the canine handler. He wasn't ordering the guy not to do something. What you were hearing was his inner monologue coming out loud. You know, he was saying the quiet part out loud. He was basically saying what we were all thinking. And, you know, he was saying the right thing. I want to just have everybody kind of take a step back for a second. Say, look, he wasn't ordering the cop what to do. So there's a little bit of misleading information there. Although what the trooper was saying was the right thing to say. He's saying the same thing I would have said. He was saying the same thing that was going through my head. I don't know. This situation was an absolute shit show. I've had a few days to kind of simmer down after having watched this video. But initially, I was extremely upset. It's still very upsetting, and I'm still pissed off. But I did see today that this canine handler, I'll pull this one up. This guy right here, just a couple hours ago, he was actually fired by the Circleville Police Department, which is the appropriate thing to do. This guy's a dumbass. He should have never been a cop for a lot of reasons. The first reason is one of the things that makes a cop different than most people in our society. There's a lot of people that possess this skill, but I'm talking about our society as a whole, is your ability to make good, sound decisions in high pressure, high stress, high adrenaline situations. That's what this was. And he showed up on scene. He let the stress, the pressure, and his adrenaline take command. And his brain was not processing anything. He was going on bare instincts. He was completely tunneled in. We call it tunnel vision a lot. And we talk a lot about preventing tunnel vision. He did not possess the ability to prevent that tunnel vision. The other thing that really aggravates me and really pisses me off about this is that you cannot have a use of force on a suspect that is giving themselves up. I realized that the suspect was an idiot, that he had been non-compliant for a long time. I think they said something like they'd been chasing him for like 20 or 30 miles. He pulled off the side of the road once, looked at him, acted strange, and then started driving again. They had to spike his tires, and he didn't stop until he was virtually unable to drive further anymore. That's the only reason that he stopped. Everything that he did was bad. If his vehicle stopped, but he was still trying to drive it, and they had to go up to the cab, open the door, rip him out, and have a use of force on him, I would have absolutely no problem with that. If he was still trying to get his truck and drive, and they opened up the door and they sent the dog in, I have no problem with that, because he was still actively resisting, actively being non-compliant, being very dangerous. Using a truck in that manner is a very dangerous thing. Lives were at stake. I don't have a problem with that, but that's not what he did. He stopped and he gave up. You cannot use force on people like that. We don't use force as police officers in a punitive manner. That's not what we are for. That's not our job. That's not our role in society. Our role is to catch people who have done the wrong thing, arrest them, let them go to court, and the court will assign a punishment. When I have a use of force on somebody, I'm responding to their resistance, or I'm responding to the threat that they pose. If someone is running from me, reaching for their waistband, and I believe they might have a weapon, I discharge my weapon. I'm not punishing them for running. I'm reacting to the threat that they pose. If I go and grab onto somebody and they pull away from me, I tackle them, and they continue to fight and wrestle and try to get away from me, I might end up punching them in the face. That is not a punishment. That is a response to their resistance, trying to get them to stop their resistive activity, trying to get them to comply, either through pain compliance or incapacitating them. But if somebody has just got their hands up and they're giving you passive noncompliance, you can't use force on that person, especially not that level of force on a person. These are the type of incidents that create that mistrust between the police and the public. And the sad thing is, these incidents are incredibly rare, but what they do is they get played over and over and over again, and they will constantly be used as the example. And people say, it happens all the time. Look what happened in Circleville. Well, it doesn't happen all the time, because what happened in Circleville was an isolated incident. It was one dumbass K-9 handler. I don't know. I think I've made my point clear on that. But one of the other things that I kind of want to point out is that dumbasses like this and mistakes like this, in my opinion, are likely to become more common because of the environment that we've created for police officers and police recruiting. We've created this environment where it's become acceptable to assault police officers, make fun of police officers, stalk them and harass them and do all these things. We've got politicians coming out and speaking out against all police officers, making overgeneralized statements about police officers, discouraging good, hardworking, honorable people from wanting to take the job. There are people that are getting hired right now that would not have been hired 4 years ago, because the applicant pool is much smaller than it was just a few years ago. So people like him, who generally wouldn't have been hired by a police department, are getting hired at higher rates now than they used to. So as a result of the movement that we've seen, this police reform movement, you're actually downgrading the type of police officers that you're seeing on our streets. Incidents like this are probably, unfortunately, going to be more common moving forward. I took some notes. I didn't look at them. This video is 26 and a half minutes long. I think that's all I'm going to say today. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you later.